Hi YouTube. Today I'm going to talk about playing slide guitar in open E tuning. Now open E tuning is one of the most, if not the most common guitar tunings that slide guitar is played in. It is different than standard tuning, which also has E at its base. So open E tuning still has that same note as standard tuning, the same high note as standard tuning, the same B string, which is the second string here, as standard tuning, but these other three strings are tuned into an E chord. So like in standard tuning, you make this E chord, and I hope you know an E chord, and you tune the guitar up so that that's already in an E chord. So for example, here's standard tuning, just to give you a quick rundown on how to get there. You know, you want to get to E tuning from standard tuning. You simply take these three strings here. You know how they're making an E chord like that. So you tune this one up to here, to B. This D up to an E. This G string in standard tuning up to a G sharp. So it sounds like that, but it looks like this guitar is already in that. So after you tune that up, you have this. So that's how you get there. And so I'll give you some riffs. Let's do some riffs in that will help you get introduced to playing in open E. Up here on the 12th fret, which a lot of lead players play, you know, when they're in the key of E, this slide has a lot of possibilities. It's got a lot of notes that can be reached and used. That's the E string. And then look at my slide. Don't get confused by my fingers. I'm not doing anything with them except for muting the slide. The same thing on the B string, the second string. With hardly any difference in motion. That's the one I showed you. Notice I'm wiggling it there. That can help you sustain the note more. That's a combination of the B and the G string. And I'm doing it with my thumb and my finger. And this is, by the way, different people mean different things by slide. I think I was starting to say that earlier, I don't know. But some are playing what I call pure slide. In other words, they only use the slide when they're making notes. They'll use the other fingers for muting only. And so especially down here where we're near the nut of the guitar, they may hit every note with their slide. But then hybrid slide playing, they'll use their fingers sometimes. a slide in this part. Still just a slide. Now, pure slide might go. And see, that's because some people play with a very high setup. In other words, there's a lot of tension on the neck. The strings are higher, and they're using heavier gauge strings. And what that prevents when you have more tension on the neck is colliding with the neck. Some people are playing with a very light setup, and that's the ones that want to use the same guitar as a lead guitar and a slide guitar. They'll strive for a kind of a compromise where they can kind of play the lead guitar pretty good, but maybe not quite as fast as if they had a really light setup, but they can still use the slide because the setup has got enough tension in the neck to support the use of a slide without colliding into the neck. This guitar is fairly light, and but there's fair amount of tension on it. And so I prefer a somewhat hybrid slide, but I really am not into trying to use the same guitar for slide and regular lead guitar. In the first place, I might want my slide guitar tuned differently, and so I don't want to retune my guitar. And so I think that two guitars or more is better for using slide if you are playing in a performance of yourself, or if you're in a band. I would have two guitars. And I have learned, though, that the more you're experienced, as you gain experience with the use and navigation of the slide over the strings, you can start to get used to using a lighter set of strings. But at first, especially if you're using a heavier set, you'll be able to learn to navigate and get the feel of slide better than if you're using really light strings. You can use these other fingers pretty well. It depends on, you know, the shape of your fingers and how limber they are, but you can do things, I call them cheater slides. And so that's where I'm going, and then the next note, if I just followed that pattern, would be, and that doesn't sound in tune as much for what my ear is expecting as this, what I'm getting ready to play. And so there, so it sounded like a slide, but I cheated. I didn't go, because that sounds out of tune. If you're willing to do hybrid slide, do it. So go into E tuning and learn it, and then explore these other tunings, get very familiar with them, and or just stay with standard tuning if you don't really like this idea. Because standard tuning, if you are learning slide in standard tuning, you will not be encumbered with learning the new tuning at the same time. I leave you with this riff to practice on. If you've made it through this is an extensive discussion. And that riff is in the lower position. Try and navigate this. Practice it. Or that's mostly all slide and no hybrid. That was just one note there, but and if you learn that, and then up here, and then go. Wait. Learn that. Thank you very much. Like and subscribe if in fact you want to.